many of you are married or in a long-term relationship? Anybody own their own home? How many of you have a job you love? Anyone under 40? Under 30? Have you ever thought about what you'll do when circumstances change? If, for example, your spouse dies or your long-term partner leaves you, what if you lose that job you love? Or the market collapses again and your retirement account is half of what it is today? And what if the doctor calls with the news no one wants to hear? And when you turn 40 or 50 or 60, will you do what I did when my own life fell apart? Or will you use the lemons that life gives us to begin again? I'm a baby boomer, and I was raised on the concept of the American dream. I was first in my family to attend college, put myself through law school, and even made it all the way to New York City, where I landed a series of plum entertainment law jobs. I married another attorney, had 2 children, and then my ex-husband and I bought the capstone of our American dream, a brownstone in a shishi part of Brooklyn. And then after 20 years of marriage, my ex-husband had an affair and left. I was in divorce court for years, lost so much weight that I looked like a skeleton. Bottom line, I wanted my life back. I tried to save my marriage, but it didn't work. And so I clung more tightly than ever to what I had left. So tightly, in fact, that first winter, when the ceramic urn on our stoop cracked beyond repair, I just tied rope around it instead of tossing it out. I got the house, but alimony ran out. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for over a decade. There were no good jobs. So I temped, became a landlord, shoveled snow, and exhausted myself trying to maintain things as closely as possible to the way they once were. But the past did not wait up for me. My children grew up. I got a decade older. I'd done some healing along the way, of course. Unfortunately, I put back on all that weight I lost, and then a little more. I started a writing career, and I even replaced that urn on the stoop. But deep down, I was still in tremendous pain and felt stuck. And when I envisioned my future, I was afraid. Why had I reacted this way in the first place? Simple. Because we humans are terrified of loss. And when something really terrible happens, we tend to hold on even more tightly, thinking that that will somehow keep us safe. When all we're really doing is ignoring the natural law of change, because nothing remains the same. We're not even the same people we were when we came in here today. Lao Tzu said, if we realize all things change, there is nothing we will try and hold on to. But we do, and when we do, we experience pain, which is the result of trying to hold on to what no longer exists and maintain it in a state of fixedness. Science can help us understand this better. As we know, Isaac Newton discovered this phenomenon called inertia, which is the tendency of an object to remain at rest or in motion and to resist change unless outside force is applied. The more mass an object has, the more inertia, and in turn, the more resistant to change when force is applied. When we are smacked in the face by life, conceivably, we ought to get thrown off our merry-go-round. But we often resist and hold on tightly. And if we are momentarily knocked off, we scramble to get back on. like I did, prolonging our own suffering. Which brings me to Einstein. He said that frame of reference is different for everything and everyone. Things move in relation to everything else. If we change our frame of reference, we will change our perspective and our way of seeing things. So plot me down into the middle of these equations 3 years ago. I needed some powerful force to counter my inertia. Why it took me so long to understand this, I'm not sure, because I am a sucker for Walt Disney musicals. And I love carousels. And to the embarrassment of my children, to this day, if I see one, I have got to have a ride. And one of my favorite scenes is from Mary Poppins. When Mary and Bert and the kids are on the carousel, the horses go leaping off. Mary finds herself in the middle of this horse race, which she wins. And when they ask her about her victory, she says, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And that's me. This girl who goes prancing off the carousel, making up ridiculous words, and then singing about them. And even though she peeked out occasionally over the years, for the most part, I thought I'd lost her. So I put my 4-story dream house up for sale and began cleaning out a lifetime of clutter. I collapsed at times, wept, stared down those wedding albums I'd been afraid to open for a decade. The antiques, the collections that my ex and I had amassed from all our years of travel, all the trappings. And I began to notice something. My possessions felt sticky. There was literally this gravitational tug or pull coming from them. And I began to understand that this was my attachment to stuff and to the way things were. And it felt awful. Simone Weil said, attachment is the great fabricator of illusions. And this is crucial. If we're going to get in touch with the loss that's holding us back, we have to discover this for ourselves. So try something with me. Perhaps you're wearing a piece of jewelry today that you love. Maybe there's an object at home that you're particularly fond of, or perhaps spend a lot of money on. Hold that object in your mind for a moment. Now, imagine it getting shattered or lost, or better yet, someone yanking it away from you. How does that feel right here? Do you feel a little pullback, a pang? Now, if you take that one object and add it together with all your other possessions, throw in your status, your job, all your important relationships, what you've got is one pretty powerful potential pain cocktail, just waiting to blow up when things go wrong. So I put my house up for sale and started getting rid of little things and then big things, lots of things, started giving stuff away. But it wasn't just stuff. It was the hopes and dreams I'd had for a future that just hadn't turned out in the way I had imagined. And something amazing happened that was totally unexpected. I didn't feel sad or afraid. I felt happy. And the more I let go of, the happier I felt. And the more I let go of, the lighter I felt. Because I felt I was returning to my old hopeful self. I was decluttering my house, yes, but I was also decluttering my life. Eventually, I made a complete 180 and just went prancing off the carousel, changed all my frames of reference at 50-something, signed the contract, got in my car, put what I had left in storage, and drove nearly 1,000 miles south, where I had no job, no home, no family, no friends, and no plan. Beryl Markham said, "I have learned that if you must leave a place that you have lived in and loved, and where all your yesteryears are buried deep, Leave it any way but a slow way. Leave it the fastest way you can. 3 years later, my life is fuller than I ever imagined it could possibly be. And people say to me, "Wow, you are so brave." But I think that I was just behaving in a way that was completely natural. And if I was brave, we can all be brave. We must grieve first, though, because loss hurts and we need to acknowledge it. And if we move on too quickly, sometimes we're just deluding ourselves. We've really let go. We also need to regain our balance. For a time, I was afraid to leave my home, but for a time, it did provide the stability that my children and I needed to start over. 3, keep what's important, and that certainly goes for the good relationships in your life. And you don't have to get rid of all your worldly possessions. The sale of my house gave me the financial means to start over. And you better believe I kept every single one of those cards and love notes my children gave me over the years. 4, let go of the rest. And 5, leap. The great Sufi mystic Rumi said, "If you desire healing, let yourself fall ill." Our communities are experiencing serious problems today. In some cases, these problems have gone on for decades. And in some cases, perhaps we are holding on too tightly to the past. If we change our frame of reference, we will begin to see new solutions and come up with new ideas for our future in our community. And as for our personal lives, we can begin preparing now for when difficulties arise. During the break, if you've been sitting down front, consider sitting in the rafters. And if you came with someone, make plans to meet up later and consider going to meet someone new. If we change our frame of reference, we will begin to change our lives. I promise. We already have. Thank you.